you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Welcome to this edition of Life's Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, Resa Tobin. Resa, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me, Mike.
Resa is a community educator for Fairfield Medical Center, which is keeping you busy these days.
Oh, yeah. We're really busy. We're moving.
Moving and shaking?
Yes, rocking and rolling.
There is a lot of activities going on through the medical center, but a couple things that we want to talk about today. Mass CPR Day coming up.
Yes, pretty exciting. Yes. And we have, at the Medical Center, have a very active group called the Snyder Community Heart Watch Group. And they have a real passion for getting CPR training and hands-on training of CPR out to everybody. And what that happened with that is that came into my role because I'm the community educator for Fairfield Medical Center. And all of a sudden, we ended up with needing a lot of people wanting and needing to be trained in CPR.
So is this something that a group decided? Did you come up with this?
Oh, no, I didn't come up with this.
Okay. You're not okay.
I'm one of a team, a very large team. Yes, the Snyder Community Heart Watch has a large number of people on it. Most of them are FMC employees, but they're people with passion. And you know how passion drives initiatives and gets things done. And that is what's happened. Bob Williams is a supervisor in our cath lab, and cardiac cath lab to be specific, and he and his staff have seen things that we might consider surprising, because a lot of times we imagine that your average heart victim is our grandfather's age or someone that's more closer to our parents' age, and they see things the way they happen, and they include young people and they include children. And Bob, being a coach, he has to have training, but he also realizes that maybe there's a lot of other people that need this training. And so that's how it kind of started. It's like, we need to get people trained. There's a high probability that children will experience an issue with their heart, and we're not prepared for that. We think they just passed out. We think they're kind of playing with you. I mean, wouldn't you think that? Your kids just crash. Sometimes you really don't have a clue whether or not there's really a problem. And if you do, the first thing that goes through your mind rather often is, this isn't supposed to happen to me. This is supposed to happen to somebody else. And a lot of times you don't act as quickly as you should. And those first few minutes, research shows that that is very integral. And whether they survive, if they survive with what kind of brain level activity they're going to have. So that is the whole purpose of this mass effort that we've had, the whole initiative of Mass CPR Day.
And this is going to be for all ages? This will be for
yes,
anybody?
Actually, anybody that can do a compression, we would love to train you. And some people are a little fearful about ventilating. And a certified CPR provider does need to be able to ventilate and have practice doing that in a class prior ahead to that. However, you don't have to do that as a bystander. You don't have to do that. You're not necessarily certified. You can do compressions just with your hands. You can do that compression. You can call 911. You can operate an AED. And it's a no-risk process to do that. And so we want people to feel comfortable doing that.
Now, this is coming up probably about the time we air the show. It may have already been completed, but it's going to be 8 to 4 at several locations throughout Fairfield County.
Yes, we have been invited, and we've set up different off-site, different trainings. Not everybody can go to the medical center. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going there. Sometimes that reminds them of another situation in their life. Although we have an ideal way of set up on the mid-level. If you catch this on Saturday and you still want to go, you can do that and be a walk-in, especially for HOPE training. And I can talk to you about the different types of training. But we also have that here at Fairfield Christian Academy in the church. We are going to do HOPE training for the students on Friday. So we're excited about that. And again, it's just one of 9 different locations. We're going to be in a lot of schools on Friday. Our goal is 2,500 kids.
Wow.
And I believe we'll reach that because the numbers indicate that right now.
Do you see, as a community educator, people are becoming more aware now?
Yes.
I personally went through a heart problem years ago and suffered some major issues. But do you see more young people, older
Yes.
people that are taking care of themselves?
Yes, people, if you see the need, then you become more proactive about a healthy lifestyle. And that's what we, on the front of our last monitor, the girl in the front, Misty, she was a victim of a heart incident, and she is currently wearing an external defibrillator. And she tried the external for a while so that it would fire whenever her rhythm went out of, she would go out of rhythm. Right. She could feel it. And that, you look at her, she is the picture of health. She's gorgeous. She is healthy size. She's very active. And she's the picture of health, of what we expect. And that goes back to what I said. Those few seconds, you're thinking, this isn't supposed to happen to me. But what happened to her in her story, and her testimony is her mother did CPR. And began with hands only. And they hadn't had CPR training. They're getting this from the movies they watch, the things they see, what they know has happened, maybe some training they've had years and years ago. So what better way is to train everybody at least to do hands only CPR and then go from there. But this whole mass CPR process, she's actually going to be participating at one of our sites. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That'll be neat. When you were younger, did you decide that this is what I wanted to do? One day I wanted to work at Fairfield Medical Center and be the community educator?
No. I thought I was going to go into art.
Really?
Yes,
really?
I did. My mom was a big influence on that. So, and my backstory has more to do with, well, what would be available, what needs done. We have a lot of people in healthcare now, but at that time, nurses were a shortage, med techs were a shortage, and that's my background. So I have kind of a broad background in clinical work. And then I brought that into the education piece. So it gives me a good way of seeing where other people are be able to train them maybe at a more elementary level so you don't scare them away with a lot of big words.
Now, is that difficult? Important. Is that difficult for you to do?
Not difficult for me.
Okay.
It is for a lot of people. And actually, we've sent all of our HOPE instructors, and since I referred to that, let me explain that. That's hands-only practical experience training. You see, CPR comes in at different levels. There's the level where you know how to the medication and you follow the whole code. That's advanced life support. Then there's just a regular certification for a provider that provides health care to someone. That's professional provider level. And then there's another lay provider level, which is just anybody that would want to know CPR. Then all of these include the ventilation piece. However, HOPE training, which is new that we have coined, gave the acronym of hands only. Hands only's been around for a while, but what we've done is taken it, paired it with practical experience. So everybody actually gets to do hands on it and with just do the compressions, call 911, which we're not actually going to call 911. I'm sure they thank us for that. And see an AED to know how AED operation works. And with that piece, that's anybody can do that. Your child can do that for you. And I always used to say with my son, take care of grandma today. Who's most likely? I mean, she's there to watch them when they're small so they don't fall out of a tree. But who's the most likely to have an issue? She is. Right. So you need to kind of plant that seed of responsibility in your children young, and then give them what they need to know. How to call 911 is key. That's what we kind of do in kindergarten. But as they get older, we want them to know more things. So no, I didn't dream of doing this, but now that I know how, and we've done a mass CPR training. We did it back in 2002. And we did one before that in 1999, but this is the first time we've been able to offer it free since then. And it is not free. It costs somebody something.
Now, Will this cover, I know being a coach, I have to go through CPR and a bunch of other stuff. Will this cover their criteria to be CPR
For coaching
certified?
CPR, it will.
Okay.
Does not cover first aid.
Okay.
They need a specific first
Right.
aid class, but it will cover, it teaches adult, infant, and child levels. It's both inclusive of the ventilation and the hands only. And so they will leave on Saturday, that mass CPR, they will leave with a certification
Right.
card. We're certifying through American Safety and Health Institute. That's important for a lifeguard because a lifeguard needs American Red Cross. And so they don't want our training, they want the American Red Cross. Now they could come to us for free and kind of feel like they got a tutorial, but they would need the license offered by American Red Cross for that position.
Now, when you talked earlier about working with kids and working with senior citizens, and through your experience, is it easier to talk with kids about their parents, or is it easier for parents to talk about their parents? It's
always easier to talk about adults with their parents.
Okay.
Because most of us don't see ourselves in the situation where, as you said, that's where you were. Where you have that heart. It's always supposed to happen to somebody else. It doesn't. Statistically, it doesn't. You need to realize that you're going to fall in the category where, yes, it's the #1 health issue with people in Ohio, all across the mid-east of America. We're corn-fed.
Well, that was
no bash on corn.
No, that was a question
that's where we are.
that people have about diets. I mean, I changed my diet drastically, and then I changed it again, and I changed it again. But
it's not all diet.
it's not. Well, that's my question. A lot of people think, well, if I cut out, excuse me, all of this, then I'll be okay. But there's so much more to it.
No, there is more. There is that whole heredity piece. Yes.
I knew it was my dad's fault.
Yes, it has to do with the lifestyle in other ways. Smoking is an issue that comes up for a lot of people. It's like it's a free country. I can do what I want. Sure you can. You can do a lot of things. You can speed if you want, but if you're in an accident or a deer kind of runs into you, you may not be alive because of that freedom of choice that you have and that you made. So, yeah, you can make those choices, but they do have an outcome. I have a choice to eat extra greasy foods, but it's going to cause a problem with my body. So there's always the repercussion and accountability piece that we don't often.
I know. When I was recovering back in '09 from my heart issue, they had classes at Fairfield Medical Center, and I became a label reader. I take something off the shelf.
Very good.
Can't do that. Can't do that. Pretty soon I had lemon. But do you see, and maybe you have experience where somebody has had an issue and then they go right back?
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah, it's like a diet gone bad. It depends on how much that it scared them, how if they really felt like they could make a difference. Some people don't feel like I can do all the right things and I'm still going to be in trouble. So sometimes people don't make changes for that reason. Change is hard. When the older we get, the harder the changes are to do. The more frustrated you are with making a change, and it may not make the same impact that you're looking for. You can be like Misty and have everything perfect and still have an issue. So you have to look beyond that to see what all you can do. The basic things are not enough.
Right. And I know we talked earlier about the HOPE classes that are coming up, but you also get involved in doing some other community groups.
Yeah, we're going to be in the schools, and that will have happened this week. That we're in the schools. That's how we got our 2,500 trained kids, and they range from 5th grade all the way up to seniors. So it depends on what school we're in. We're doing a lot of kids. And
now, do you just stay within Fairfield County, or do you?
Right now, we're still within Fairfield County. The idea is like, well, what are you going to do next year? We want this thing to self-perpetuate itself. So that's why we created the HOPE training program from instructors. And that gives instructors that will teach this responsibility to continue to teach it. First of all, if you don't teach something, you're not very good at doing it. If you continue to teach it, then you become better. And then you become better at delivering that material at whatever age group you're going to be teaching. And so these instructors will be required to continue to teach. So if you are running a Girl Scout program, or you have some sort of small group, it could be a Bible study group, it could be any community groups, moms, a different moms group. So if you wanted to get together and have this kind of training, then we will have the instructors, and the goal is not to have to turn you down. The HOPE training is the hands-only practical experience, and it's free. So there's really no reason why you couldn't entertain the thought of doing that unless you have to cross some bridges with fears, and people have those fears. And your instructor can help you with that too.
If somebody wanted more information, should they contact you directly?
Yeah, I would probably be your best bet, because as the community educator, what I'm going to do is funnel that out to all the HOPE instructors. We will have over 60 trained by this weekend, and they are people that have professional clinical experience. They may not be a true CPR instructor, but they are a HOPE trained instructors, so they're clinical experts, and some of them are both. They do both teaching, but you can have hands only come to your small community group. There's no fee for that. It is just the hands only, calling 911, running an AED. That's what that's going to look like.
You might want to explain the difference between hands-on and CPR, because I think people are...
Yes, CPR is you're going to include that ventilation piece. It's going to include the compressions. And then you're certified, and a certification comes from a national organization. Ours comes through American Safety and Health Institute. American Heart is another organization. A certification is going to be a more intensive knowledge. Those classes typically look like 3 hours in training, and they also come with a wallet card when you're done. You take a written test for those. They're not. It's not an intensive test. By the time you're done with 3 hours, you know it. It's tough enough. Okay, I don't want to minimize that for you, but that is a true certification. HOPE training does not include a certification. It's just a completion training, but what it does is it helps you within those first few minutes that you might be present when a victim has an incident, and you can make the difference. You can make the difference because when they come around, if they get, when you save them, they know who they are, they know who you are. We've just got to increase make our outcomes better, and that's the process.
There's always been the concern, Good Samaritan law.
Yes.
I'm not doing that, but I mean,
in the state of Ohio, the Good Samaritan law, based after the Bible story, help and do what you can. And that's pretty much the gist. As long as you don't take payment, you're not allowed to take allowed to take any kind of reward for helping someone in a Good Samaritan situation.
So I have to give back the brownies, I think? Shoot.
Yes, you have to give away back all those tickets they gave you. You also have to just operate within the training, the scope of your training. And that is a piece that might be important if you knew what to do next, but you needed a physician's order to follow to do that next step. But that's again is not a huge problem in the arena of the community, because you don't have that kind of equipment. You need the equipment, you need the medication. You don't have access to that out beside a car wreck. So most of the time, the Good Samaritan law is in effect in the state of Ohio. And we highly recommend you do what you can, because you live with the thought of what if I could have helped if you don't.
How long have you been doing community education for medical?
Since 2000. I'm a lab rat by trade. That's my
a lab rat?
Yes. I tell people I found my cheese. My natural gifts fall more into education.
Now, over the last 12 years, and I know that a lot of times the classes are attended by the spouses of people that may have had a heart problem. Is it easier to deal with the spouse or with the patient?
Your spouse is usually higher motivated, but they're also a lot more emotionally charged. It is not been uncommon to have somebody in your class cry. Yeah. So you need to be prepared for that. They are getting a flashback, something that hurt, something that frightened them. So you want to be prepared for that as an instructor. That's another thing we prepare our HOPE instructors with, as well as our CPR instructors. We want them to prepare for that. Sometimes the individual doesn't want anybody to know they're upset, and in that case you simply ignore it. You're meeting their needs, and they're going to get through it, and you'll just continue on. The other times people can't continue in the class. They're too upset to continue. They thought they could, and that's where you either work on them with one-on-one, and see if they want to continue and try again, or if they want to just wait and give it time, because time heals.
Right, absolutely. Have you ever had to perform CPR?
Yes. Yes, I started to. And he had vagaled out. It was in church.
Now, what did you say?
Be ready.
He
Okay,
vagaled
that
out?
was what happened. His blood pressure dropped too low, got him on
Okay.
the floor, got ready to began the chest and compression, and his blood pressure came out. Eyes got bright open, looked straight up at me like, what are you doing on my chest? Yeah, it's scary for them, but it was enough to get him to move out of the
Right.
denial phase that something was wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking a lot about CPR because of the events coming up, but Fairfield Medical Center gets involved in a lot of other classes, and I'm sure there's other things that you'd like to discuss and talk about. I know I've been through a lot of different classes.
Yes, the best thing to do is to hit our website, because I'm not the end source of that. Community educator, yes, that's what I do, but a lot of times I tag you out. My husband is actually teaching as a FMC, because he also works at FMC. He's
he a nurse
actually
too?
no. He is. His background is in he's a lab rat as well.
Okay.
We're medical technologists, and he actually works in the quality process for improved outcomes. He does statistics. So there's a place in medicine if you really like your math too.
Not me.
Not you. Clinical. He was clinically. He was a chemistry supervisor, but he's going to speak tomorrow. No, Thursday night. He's going to be speaking at Fairfield National Bank, and they're having him in. They're going to talk about difficult conversations. His first degree through college was in psychology, so he's very good and with hot temperament. It's nice to be married to somebody like that. Oh, gracious. And he's going to talk to them about how you get your side of the conversation lined up when you know a difficult conversation's coming your way. And so we do lots of things like that, things that would improve your employment and help you if you're working with an organization or company. We also have some family classes that we can do upon request, including the How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk class. It's always got a fun name to it. But
How to avoid marrying a jerk class?
Yes, that's a certified class. And then we'll do these things upon request as people ask for them. We don't just hold them. We used to hold them. But there's so many other things that are medically
What's the weirdest one you've
line.
ever gotten? I mean, that somebody said, have a class on this, that you didn't do. I mean, that
Well,
you
most
just...
people think of health issues, and I said probably the avoid marrying a jerk class or jerkette. We're not going to typify them. They come in all flavors.
That was a question that I had earlier, was that is it easier dealing with women or with men when there's, in these classes? Sometimes men say,
Yes.
I don't need to worry about that. And
They are both good pupils. Women tend to be a little bit more emotional. And men, even if they've lived through the moment, they pretend they didn't and they keep on going. Men tend to push it really hard, and you kind of want that, and women not so much, and you have to encourage them to be a little bit stronger, because if they don't push deep enough, they haven't made the compression significant enough.
We've just got a few minutes left, but through my ordeal, which was about 3 years ago, my surgeons never lost the sight of faith. Is that something that's difficult to deal with people? Why is this happening to me? And there is no God. Is that?
That's going to go back to who their care providers are. And with most of the care providers that I work with, faith is always that element. We're not a organization that has any church background, such as Ohio Health has the Methodist Church or Mount Carmel has the Catholic Church, but don't think that there are not faith and faith holders and believers in that, and if you ask them to pray with you, you will be surprised. A lot of them
absolutely.
will do that. Their faith is very strong and very meaningful to them, even though they may not wear a label. In the organization we don't. But the same is true with physicians. And physicians are self-employed. So they are more free to talk about it, And in some cases, it helps them be able to talk about the issues they need to. So I highly encourage you that faith is a piece of your spiritual health. It's a piece of you both physically, emotionally. That spiritual part is there mentally. So you don't want to ignore the spiritual piece, whatever the faith is. And you have to be open to other people not actually agreeing with you. So you have to be open to other ecumenical flavors. And we have a whole chaplain group in our facility, and they make an effort to meet your need wherever that is. And faith is a huge part of your health.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know there are many doctors who looked at me and said the same thing. It's amazing. It really is.
Miracles happen every day.
Yes, I am a living miracle today.
Miracles happen.
Resa Tobin, we appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the Mass CPR Day and with the
Lots
hope.
of work.
A lot of stuff going on. One more time, phone number, or if anybody wants to get a hold of you, or website they can go to and learn more about community education.
And keep in mind that I'm not at my desk all the time because I'll be teaching all day Friday and Saturday. It's 687-8477, and that's our local area code of 740. Love to talk to you. If I can't help you, I'll try to tag you into someone who can.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Appreciate all your efforts through Fairfield
Thanks
Medical
a lot.
Center. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.